One of the most important features of web servers is the ability to serve files. Usually the first thing we learn about Apache or IIS is where to put our HTML, CSS, images, and other assets that we want that web server to serve. Now, with Node.js, we actually have to build the web server. In order to build a web server, we're going to have to use the HTTPS module in conjunction with the FS module. When we request a file, we are going to have to use the file system to load that file, and then we can use the HTTP module to respond with its contents. Let's build a file server. Let's go ahead and navigate to our files. You will notice that there is a file server.js, the empty JavaScript file where we're going to build this file server, as well as a public folder. And in the public folder, we have a JPEG file, we have a style CSS, and we also have an index.html page that includes the JPEG and the style sheet referenced right inside of the HTML. So let's go ahead and serve that index file, and we will do so in our file server.js file. So let's go ahead and open that up. And in order to create a file server, we're going to need the HTTP module. We're also going to need the file system module, so we need to require FS. And I'm going to use the path module to help me with some file paths. And our next step is going to be to use the HTTP create server function. And this function will take in a callback function. And the callback function will be invoked with every web request, passing the request as the first argument and the response as the second argument. Now, in the previous lesson, we set this server to an instance. But in JavaScript, we love to chain. So we don't actually need to set a server instance because we can just chain the listen command onto the end of this create server function. Here we can tell this new server to listen to any request incoming on port 3000. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is when a new web request comes in, I'm going to go ahead and log the details of that request. I will use a template string for this, and we can find out what method was requested and what URL was also requested. So we will log that to our terminal, so we have good server logging details. Now, if the requested URL is equal to the /, that means that this is a request for our homepage. And right now, if you're not requesting our homepage, we don't know what you want. So I'm actually going to respond with a 404 or file not found. So if you're not requesting our homepage, I'm going to write a header of 404. That's a status code for not found. And I'm going to go ahead and just respond with plain text here. So in my headers, I'm going to add content type. And we will also add text plain. So if you don't know what you're looking for, you're going to get a 404 response, and we'll send you some text that says 404 file not found. Great. Now, if you are requesting the homepage, we need to serve that index file. Now, if we take a quick look at our files again, that index file is found in the public folder. So we could serve a file with fs.read file. And when we do so, we're looking in the public folder for a file called index.html. So we're going to read the contents of the index.html file as text, formatted UTF-8. And once we've read the contents of that file, this callback function will fire. And this callback function will include any errors with reading the file, along with the HTML contents for that file. So once we've successfully read the file, and we have the contents, that's when I'm going to respond. So here I will respond with a write head, and we will set a 200 status. And then I am also going to respond with content type equal to text HTML. And I'm also going to just respond with my HTML. There we go. So once we've read the HTML, we will send that back to the browser along with the header that lets the browser know that this is HTML content. Let's go ahead and save this and navigate to our terminal. I'm going to run this by typing node file server. So we forgot to log ourselves a little console log message. We will add that. That's a nice touch because realistically, our file server is currently running. That cursor over there is showing me that I have a file server running. So I'm going to go over to the browser and open up a new browser window and hit http:// 3000. And when I do so, we can see that we are serving our HTML file. Now, if I go back to the terminal, One thing you'll notice is making a request for this HTML file also makes a request for a style sheet, also makes a request for a birds.jpg, and our browser is also making a request for a favorite icon file. So just requesting one HTML file has caused all these other requests to occur. The issue is that if we try to request our style sheet, we don't get to see it. That's 404 because any request that is not our homepage is giving us a 404 right now. That also includes birds.jpg. So we need to improve our web server to also additionally serve these files. So let's go ahead and navigate back to our source code. And what we're going to do is we're serving the home page. That is working nice for us, so we will leave this code here. We're also serving the 404. That is also working nice for us, so we will leave that code intact. What I'm going to do is place an else if inside of this if statement. So in this else if block, what we're going to do is check the requested URL. req.url is a string, and in JavaScript, our strings have a match function. And we can send a regular expression to see if this string matches that regular expression. In JavaScript, we place a regular expression between these two slashes. So I'm going to check to see if the requested URL has an extension of CSS that it ends with. So if we do have a file with a CSS extension, we need to serve that file too. Now, of course, I could just fs read file the way that I've done above. That's one way to do it. But remember, our problem with reading the file is we have to wait till the entire file is read, and then we're going to respond with the entire file. So what would actually be a better solution is to create a read stream. First, let's create a CSS path to that file. We will use the path.join method to find our current directory, the public directory, so the public directory under our current directory, and then the requested URL. So the requested URL will be looking for our style.css if we are in here. So we are creating a path to that file. The next thing that we're going to do is create a read stream for this. So I'll create a file stream, and we will use the file system create read stream function. And we will use the CSS path, and we will also make sure that this is a text stream. So I will send UTF-8. So now I have created a read stream, and now I can begin to respond by piping this stream along to the response. So the first thing I'm going to do is set up our response header. And we have a 200 successful response. This time the content type is CSS. So I will specify that this is text CSS content for my browser. And now finally, once we have a read stream, we can actually pipe a read stream to a writable stream. Our response object is a writable stream. So what I'm going to actually do is use the file stream, and it has a pipe method. We can take a read stream and pipe it to a writable stream using this method. So what this will do is it will actually stream the contents of our file to our response, and it will automatically handle when that response is over and chunking the data and everything for us. So this is great. This will actually send our CSS file back. Let's go ahead and handle that image file real quick while we're here too. So I'm also going to open up another else if block, and we're pretty much going to do the same thing. I'm going to check the requested URL to see if it has a .jpg extension found at the end. So we are using that regular expression to see if it matches that URL string. If it does have a JPEG extension, then we are going to go ahead and create an image path. And again, I will use the path.join, and we're going to use the dir name along with the public because everything is in the public folder. And then finally, our requested image. So that should be the request for the JPEG file. And now what I want to do is also create a stream for reading this file. So I will create an image stream, and the file system can create a read stream. Now this time the difference is we're going to read the image as binary data and not text. So I'm just going to add the image path, and I'm not going to send the UTF-8 encoding. This will be a binary stream. So now I can set up my response headers. And I will use write head to add a 200 or successful header. And now this time we also need to let the browser know that the content type is going to be an image. So this is an image, and it's a JPEG image specifically. So that is the binary data that we are responding with, a JPEG image. And then finally, I can use this image stream, and I can pipe this read stream to a write stream, and our response is a write stream, so we're going to be able to do that. So now if I save this, we should be handling any requests for CSS or JPEG images along with any requests for the home page. Now, if you aren't requesting the home page or our CSS file or our JPEG file, we are still responding with a 404. And the last nice touch that I'm going to add is right down here after I've chained the listen on. I'm just going to add a console log to let us know that our file server is running on port 3000. There we go. So we can go ahead and save this and navigate back to our terminal. And I need to stop my old server, so I'll go ahead and hit Control-C for that. We can go ahead and clear the terminal content. And now I'm going to run my file server, node file server. And we see that our file server is running on port 3000. If I go open a browser window, I am looking at localhost 3000 here. This is my old request for birds JPEG. Well, when I make that request this time, the binary data for the birds JPEG file is served. Also, if I serve style.css, we no longer see a 404 there. That is also getting served. This means that if I actually make a request for my home page, I am serving the HTML, the CSS styles, and the images for this home page to work. And then finally, if we go take a look at our terminal, we are also logging all of these requests. So the first two requests I made directly for birds.jpg and style.css. And then when I made a request for the home page, we are actually requesting the home page, the style CSS, and the birds.jpg file. So if we take one last look at our code, we'll notice that it takes a little bit of work with Node.js to build a file server. With Node.js, we get a lot of trade-offs. It's pretty cool that we can build servers using JavaScript, but we actually have to build the server. So we have to see what our users are requesting and respond with the appropriate content. If that content contains files, we actually have to read or stream those files to our client. So it's a little bit more work than you might be used to, but this actually gives us a lot of flexibility, which is going to be cool in later lessons.